Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, and the federal government yesterday said there were no plans to revoke the Naira-For-Crude deal with local oil refineries, including the 650,000 barrels per day Dangote refinery in Lagos. Both NNPC and Chairman, Technical Subcommittee for the Naira-For-Crude program, Zach Adedeji, who also heads the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, were reacting to reports in a section of the media that the oil swap deal with domestic refiners had been cancelled. The arrangement was introduced on the 1st of October 2024, and it allowed local refiners to purchase crude oil in Naira instead of dollars. The initiative was designed to support domestic refining capacity, reduce reliance on imported petroleum products, and stabilize the local currency by easing pressure on foreign exchange reserves. But in a statement signed by NNPC spokesman Olufemi Shoneye, the national oil company stated that it remained committed to supplying crude oil for local refining based on mutually agreed terms and conditions. The statement explained that NNPC was already in discussions with the local refining facilities, including Dangote Refinery, to renegotiate the deal, which expires this March, in the first instance. All right, so Rufai, a number of things. Of course, when this Naira-For-Crude agreement came into play, a number of people had hailed it as a very laudable initiative, especially for the reasons that earlier mentioned. Pressure on foreign exchange, the impact on the economy, but very importantly, supply, being able to boost the efficiency of local refineries. And now, yesterday, and Dr. Bati asked this question yesterday around whether or not they were stopping the deal or not. Good news is that they're saying they're not stopping it, but there are a few things that we need to work out of this story. Your take on this morning?
Okay, so they're not stopping it. I'm sure there was a lot of panic when that story came out yesterday, but there's no stopping to it. Initially, the deal was supposed to last for 6 months. And this crude for Naira deal is something that had been on the cards for a long while. So many, many years ago, when our refineries were still working, there was a threshold set aside for national energy security, which was about 450,000 barrels per day. But over the years, as our refineries went moribund and they were not working, most of those 450,000 barrels per day were also being sold off. And also they had swap deals around them. But at the return of refineries working full swing, the Dangote refinery and the likes, then most of that stock of 450,000 barrels per day are now being integrated into the local economy in such a way that crude refiners can buy that crude, but they pay for it in Naira other than US dollars. Yeah. But the interesting thing about it is, over the years also, because of our debt and our loans, we had taken most of our crude and swapped them in deals. We have done forward swap, lasting to many years. In fact, some of our forward swap deals go as much as over 200,000 barrels per day in some cases, in this crude for oil deal. You remember the 8 billion deal, you remember, I think it was Operation Gazelle, and a couple of other things like that, which we did because we needed money. So what is happening now is getting that crude out. NNPC said it's churned about 48 million barrels. But since Dangote Refinery started in 2023, it's had to bring in about 84 million barrels. So the shortfall, Dangote keeps filling it up with foreign imports. So it's not going a long way. So the bulk of Dangote crude, apart from that NNPC deal, the bulk of the Dangote crude still comes in for foreign imports. Dangote is 650,000 barrels per day refinery. The crude deal was supposed to give them about 385,000 barrels per day out of the 450,000 barrels per day. That was still going to fall short. But over the years, because of this swap and this deal, it has reduced. In fact, I think in the last month of the deal, Dangote said they only got about 61,000 barrels from that deal.
Had to rely on
so it's been massively imports and everything. So the argument and the allusion that the reason why Dangote Refinery is reducing fuel price in part is because of this crude deal is not necessarily the case, because most of their imports are still come from foreign bodies where they have to still look for dollar, to be able to buy this crude. But the good thing about it is that they're going to review it and look at the terms again while they sign another deal. The question is there going to be another 6 months threshold deal? Or is it going to be a long-term thing, or they're going to be reviewing based on needs assessments? Now that we are having increased full refining capacity, when those forward sales end or before the termination of those forward sales, is there a possibility to be able to bump up the threshold of what they'll be giving to local refiners? Yeah. Is there also a possibility of increasing output?
Yes.
Because those are the questions. You see, last year, there was a big push to hit 2 million barrels per day.
And they say they're on track to hit it.
But the December timeline was long gone. What month are we in now? We're March. They never hit it by December. That was the refrain. Most of what they did was about 1.5, 1.6.
They said they did 1.8 with condensate.
No, yeah, so 1.5, 1.6, that's what OPEC will count. OPEC will not probably count condensates. Then condensate push it up to 1.7, 1.8. The mark was supposed to be 2 million barrels. We didn't get up to that. So for you to be able to make more products available, crude product available, you need to be able to increase the threshold. 2 million, yes, a good start, probably even higher than 2 million.
2.5. That's
the
ultimate goal.
Yeah. 2 million, higher than 2 million, will be able to do a lot of work. But the question is, for you to also do that, apart from crude oil theft, you also need to invest in the moribund infrastructure. You need to get a lot of investment. You need to remove the red tape that does not make people bring investment in. There are a lot of wells in the deep waters that are subject to a lot of litigation today. People are still fighting over those wells. A lot of people that got those wells have not had the investment to farm into those wells. So you need to be able to unlock all of those potential to get more investment in. So these are the factors on ground.
All right, so thank you so much for laying out the factors on ground. Yesterday, the question was raised, and I'm glad that hopefully that triggered a response from the NNPC, but even more importantly from the committee, which is headed by Mr. Zak Adediji, who's also the FIRS chairman in Nigeria. And I'll take his own report, I'll take his own statement, because as chairman of that committee, he is in the right, he has the right to actually say what the direction of the committee would be. Like you rightly mentioned, and like I said earlier, 1st October 2024, this Naira-For-Crude deal was negotiated and was said to be a game changer, especially for local refiners and also for its economic impact. Number one was it would reduce pressure on the dollars, or that importers would naturally use to import fuel in. And then number two, of course, would be its impact on inflation numbers. And whether we like it or not, in recent times, we saw inflation numbers come down. And the recent NPC...
inflation numbers came down.
Well, there was a rebasing.
There was a rebasing. Inflation numbers didn't come down.
But it was enough. It was enough. But they said it did have an impact on it.
I know, but the rebasing was the way it was calculated.
Yes, but
so inflation numbers. In fact, inflation numbers went up in January.
But in terms of the impact, it was enough for the NPC to say they were going to halt on rate hikes. So in terms of that, it was a clear direction of progress economically with this particular decision. So it only made sense that at the end of the first 6 months of this deal, they would continue. However, there are some factors that have continued to mitigate against the success of this particular deal. You already talked about supply, and NNPC has consistently said that they were working really hard, aside from just for this deal, even for economic prosperity, to increase barrels per day in terms of the output. And some of the things they talked about was security, that they were doing a lot in investing in that. They were securing the pipelines, and they were looking to even go into certain areas to restart exploration again. That was one. The other part that is pertinent, and which we've talked about again and again, are these imports or these importers who are still giving licenses, despite the fact that Dangote Refinery has consistently said, in addition to the smaller refineries that exist in Nigeria, that they are able to not just meet Nigeria's consumption, but they are also even able to have excess for export. And so if we have this on ground as a local refiner, why are we still importing? In fact, I saw a report this morning that persistent fuel imports has cost Nigeria $620 million in February alone. This surpasses $4.3 billion in 5 months. So who are these oil marketers or oil importers who are given licenses by NNPC to import fuel when we have local refineries that have the capacity to meet local demand? And one of the things they've consistently talked about is the fact that they're not getting enough supply from NNPC. So these are questions they have to answer. It's not enough to talk about renegotiating a deal. We have to talk about how the deal would work and how we can make it work so that Nigerians benefit. Don't forget as well, the reason why we also have, for us as consumers, because a lot of people are like, that's high level, what is in it for me? The reason why you are able to go to your pump, to the pump and get cheaper fuel is because these local refineries don't have to use dollars to import and then transfer the cost of that to the end user. It means that it also translates as cheaper fuel, PMS for us when we go to, and that's why in recent times you've seen that they've been able to come out to make announcements around reduction of fuel at the PMS at the pump price. So it has worked largely, and Mr. Adedeji alluded to that fact. What we're now calling for is that if they are renegotiating, what are the terms of this renegotiation? You ask, how long would it be? What would be the supply level? What would the supply level be? How can we protect local players and stop encouraging those who are importing and putting pressure on our FX? And this would cause an instability on the Naira, and also, of course, like I mentioned earlier, even inflation numbers as well. So these are some of the conversations that we need to have. I'm glad that they've come out to give some clarity, but I do believe that more clarity is required and that we push for the protection of our local players.